I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, creepy, and strange.
And I drink.
So what are you drinking tonight, Mitchell?
Our beer tonight is Crimson Voodoo Raspberry White Ale, brewed by Dixie Brewing Company, LLC, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Nolans, Louisiana, Leah. Aren't you excited? All right, it's 5.2% alcohol by volume and nothing on the can, so let's read the online description. Razzy and refreshing. This fruited white ale uses tart, fresh raspberries and a clean hop profile to balance the sweet and spicy orange peel and coriander aromas. Don't be afraid of the pink hue. It will bring you good luck if you dare to practice Crimson Voodoo. End quote. And what they mean by that is the beer has, it's kind of pink. It's, it's got a little bit of red in it, kind of purplish. What I have to say about it? I'm not much of a fan of white ales in general because they have like this lingering sharpness that just kind of stays in your mouth. Like when you drink a Gatorade, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. It just kind of sticks in the back of your throat, kind of phlegmy. White ales do that for me. Do you get the same thing, Leah? You know
I just didn't like it. I only took a sip of it, and it seemed kind of acidic to me, and I don't care for that. So, not for me.
Well, that's the raspberry. This one's really no different. It's tart at first, and it has that quick, persistent thing that happens on the back of my throat. It's good, though. I like the flavor of it personally, but I wouldn't have this again. I gave it an 8 out of 10 because it is good.
All of your beer ratings are just like...
I like beer.
It's not good, but 8 out of 10.
I didn't say it wasn't good. I said it's not bad.
I don't like it.
I like it, but it's not a favorite. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a well-made product. It's just not quite for me because I'm not a white ale fan.
I think it's gross. Don't buy that.
Well, Leah had one sip instead of a whole beer, and that's how she's basing her opinion. But anyway, I think it's pretty good. If you can find it and you like white ale, I recommend trying it. Just not a white ale person myself. So that's it. Our shot in the dark for the night is real gross. We had it on a few weeks ago. Shelta Cavern Spirits Whiskeynaut hop-flavored whiskey. Proudly distilled and bottled by Straight to Ale Brands, incorporated in Huntsville, Alabama. 40% alcohol by volume. If you want to hear the full review, go back, I think it'll be 7 weeks off of this one. Episode 113, Turtle Noises was the name of that episode. If you care to hear just how bad we thought it was. Got a 7.25 out of 10, and that was being generous. That's it for the alcohols, Leah. Quick and easy, and you're not too happy overall with everything.
Not thrilled. The beer's not good. The whiskey's really not good. What a day, man. What a day.
Well, it should be said that we went and bought a whole bunch of White Claw, and Leah is drinking that this week because she's like, let me just have some White Claw.
I'm not going to drink a bad beer. Sorry.
It's not a bad beer. It's a fine beer.
It's not a good beer.
It's just not a particularly great beer. Okay, that's all.
We have so many options in this house.
Yeah.
No, I'll just let you drink the bad beer.
That's fine.
It's fun.
If you think it's bad, I'll take it. I'm not thrilled about the Crimson Voodoo myself, Leah, but it's something that I will finish all of.
Also, the Crimson Voodoo sounds like just something that an angsty teenager would call her period. Just
that's
because,
what I was about to say.
She's just so pissed off about it. Or maybe she's one of those people that's really into whole, oh, I'm a moon goddess or whatever. I feel like Crimson Voodoo is just a weird euphemism for a period.
Or like at the local New Orleans watering hole. Hey, Frank, why aren't you heading home? Oh, my wife's got the Crimson Voodoo this week. I just don't want to deal with that bitch when she's on the Crimson Voodoo.
Well, that's misogyny.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm saying that's probably what this is about. I'm not saying that, Leah. That's not. You noticed the guy's name was Frank.
Yeah,
that wasn't
but
Mitch.
your characters are a little misogynist,
that wasn't, hey,
sir.
Mitch, what are you doing? I just realized I have a fraternity brother named Frank who lives in New Orleans. I didn't do that on purpose, but he might say Crimson Voodoo.
Is Frank a misogynist?
A little bit, but he's also my big in the fraternity.
In which case, we do not associate with that person. It's fun.
I like Frank. I haven't talked to Frank in a while. Frank, if you hear this, let me know if you've ever said the words Crimson Voodoo in a misogynistic way. That's it. That's everything.
Oh,
we were all misogynist in college. It's what you do.
It
in a
is
fraternity.
not, in fact, what you do.
Well, it was what we did in the fraternity. And then you know what, Leah? I grew up. So
Well, I'm glad I didn't meet you back then. Anyway.
Yeah.
We
would have been friends.
Would we though?
Yeah. We wouldn't have been fucking or anything. But we'd have been friends. We would have been on a beer pong team together.
Probably not, because I'm very uncoordinated when it comes to stuff like that.
Well, that's why we're on a team, because I was an excellent beer pong player, Leah.
I was bad at beer pong. I was bad at flip cup. I legitimately didn't drink a drop of alcohol until I was the end of my freshman year of college, at all. So, and I didn't go to parties. I'm not someone that you would have hung out with.
Well, we're in the same boat. I didn't binge drink until college. So there you go.
I've never binge drank.
Yeah. Well, you missed out on college. That's all I'm saying.
I guess. I mean, I got a degree, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on it now, and I still occasionally binge drink.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, are you ready to get on with the show?
I mean, if you want to. I enjoyed talking about how we may not have known each other when we were college-aged.
No, we didn't know each other when we were college.
Yeah, but I mean, if we were at the same campus and everything, I think it would have been interesting.
I totally would have thought you were a fratty douchebag. It's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't real frat. I was a little frat. I had frat tendencies. Wait a second. I was frat adjacent. There we go. Look, we're changing the name of the company.
Oh, we are not. I refuse. In fact, in college, I think I specifically told some of my sorority sisters, if I ever get married, they're definitely not going to be in a fraternity. And
well, I wasn't when we got married.
Yeah, you weren't. And I mean, but alums of Greek organizations. Anyway.
The thing is, it doesn't matter if you graduate from the institution you're in. I'm considered an alumni from my fraternity.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting to me. Anyway.
If you leave and don't have any debts or anything to the society, that's how they all are.
I guess.
Regardless of if you graduated or not. I have friends that didn't graduate from our university. They transferred to a place that didn't have the same organization, and they're still considered alumna. So it's fun. As long as you don't owe them money or do something stupid, you get to be an alumna.
I don't. We had very low fees, whatever you call it.
Yeah, we only had low fees because we were a dry chapter, but
sucks to be you nerds. Sucks to be you.
Anyway, enough about how we are totally incompatible as a couple. All right, y'all. We have a brand new patron. So
yay! Hold on, we got to get some sound effects and get that shit in here. Welcome, new patron.
Yeah! You suck.
That's
Wait,
not
no.
the. No.
I didn't mean to hit that one. I was trying to hit this one. There we go. New
Please
patron.
don't tell our patrons that they suck. It's not okay.
Who's there? New patron does not suck. Okay.
All right, you're done.
All done.
Welcome to the Possum Passel, Lizzie.
Hey,
Yay.
Lizzie. Welcome in.
Lizzie's pledged to be a patron over on Patreon, and we appreciate her so very much.
Thank you.
It's people like Lizzie that keep our podcast going, allowing us to pay for server space, to pay for, all the other stuff that goes along with podcasting equipment and the like, as
Mostly
well as beer and liquor for the tasting portions, as that stuff can get expensive.
I've never thought of calling them the tasting portions.
The tasting portions, yes.
You make it sound so sophisticated. I'm just I chugged 2 or 3 beers before we start, and I'm like, yeah, it tastes fine.
You should taste it and then rate it and then continue to drink, and then we won't have so many 8.5 out of 10s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just like beer, and you know that. If this was a cheese podcast, Leah, bare minimum.
Oh my God, y'all.
Minimum score that you would give any cheese is a 9, period, on a scale of 9.2. Like bare fucking minimum.
Y'all, so is it the iHeartRadio group has like a podcast, like competent, like be the next great podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're having you pitch podcasts and then they're picking like
Pitch
some
the
finalists
cheese.
to give money. And I was just like, oh my God, can I have a cheese tasting podcast?
Wait, just right now you were like that? Yeah, fucking A, you should. God damn. It's just going to end up like every week you're going to be like, we have a new cheese, but I'm just going to eat gorgonzola again. Sorry, y'all.
Lawrence loves dairy. It'll be ice cream and cheese.
See, that is a great, brought to you by Trash Adjacent Productions. Leah loves dairy. Leah loves lactose. There we go. Full alliteration.
And unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I'm like lactose intolerant at some level because it always makes me feel bad, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Cheese is the best. But anyway, I've talked about wanting to go on a cheesecation before.
Yes.
Like, just like go to Wisconsin and tour around dairies.
We've looked into it. It's not too expensive, especially COVID times.
Anyway, so like I was saying previously, thank you so much, Lizzie. You're the best. We appreciate everything that you're doing to help us stay afloat in the podcasting world.
Your donation is going to more cheese.
It's not. It is. We don't have show cheese, I promise.
Why do we not fucking have show cheese?
We should really start using show cheese.
Ugh.
But for real, if anybody else wants to join us in the Possum Passel, we've got stickers, we've got other stuff. So yeah, join us at patreon.com/Southern Spirits Podcast. Yeah, give us a couple bucks every month. Keep us going. We appreciate it very, very much.
Very much.
Yes. So, with that out of the way, would you like to hear our sassy Southern saying of the evening?
I absolutely would, Leah.
All right. So, this week, it's one that my dad used constantly through my childhood.
Okay.
Mostly to refer to my brother, but sometimes me. He'd say, y'all useless as the teats on a boar hog.
So I'm guessing that a boar is a male.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought a boar was just a type of. Anyway, okay.
It's a boar and a sow. So a sow is the female and a boar is the male.
We've talked about this before. Has this been on the show before?
I don't think so.
I'm almost positive it has.
Shit. Maybe I've reused.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I think
Don't look it up.
I think you need to look that up because I think I remember saying he could say useless as my teats. Like, this happened recently.
Oh, damn. Deja vu. Anyway.
This happened very recently.
It turns out that I'm as useless as the teats on a boar hog.
Like, I think I even remember titling the episode Useless as My Teats. Leah.
Shit. Well, you know what, y'all? No new phrase for the podcast week because apparently...
Yeah. Okay.
Y'all, I can barely remember what day it is at this point. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Released on March 29th, Useless as My Teats.
Well,
we've done this. Would you like to do another one?
Y'all, I apologize, but fuck it.
Would you like to cut this out and do it again?
No, I would not.
All right. Sounds good. Sorry, y'all. By the way, we're also reusing stories this week and beers.
Love y'all, but fuck it.
So,
have
here's
any
what's
of y'all
happening.
had like a week with the Rona that you're just like, I'm done? Fuck it.
Yeah.
That's today. Sorry about it. Next week we will attempt to bring something that we haven't brought you already.
So if you would like to hear this episode, you can go back to our March 29th release and hear that whole episode.
No, legit though. They're new stories. I apologize.
Well, look,
yeah.
No sassy Southern saying, but who gives a shit, right?
Not
you were
I.
saying. There you go. There you go. That's all that matters.
Oh, Lord.
Oh. Well, who cares, Leah? Moving on.
Okay, well, we're like 15 minutes in. How about we talk about our first story of the evening? Are you prepared?
I'm in for it. And
all
I just want to say that the amount of times that I've retold stories, like personal stories on this show, if people are still around, they should be okay with you reusing a sassy Southern saying. Admittedly, it was 5 months ago. So,
do you know how much has happened in the last 5 months?
That's what I'm saying. It was 5 months ago.
Fuck it. Anyway, so we are going to go to Florence, Alabama,
all right.
and we are talking about an outlaw. We're going to be talking about Mountain Tom Clark.
Okay. Now, this one I know for a fact I've not heard before, so
good.
We're good to go.
All right, so Mountain Tom Clark lived in and about the area of Florence, Alabama from around... He was born in 1821 and he died in 1872. And he was a part of a rather notorious gang in the Lauderdale County area called, and this is a great gang name, y'all, if you want to steal it for yourself.
The Boar Hog Teats.
No, the Clifton Shebang.
Okay. That was way better than the Boar Hog Teats. That's great.
Like, who wants to be like... The Sharks, the Jets, the Clifton Shebang.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that. I love that.
Bless it. Anyway.
Why is there not a musical?
I don't know, man.
Did they dance like in West Side Story,
I don't think so.
Because, I mean, come on.
You can always add things. Like, I mean, they didn't actually rap during the American Revolution. I feel like we could just add show tunes in for this.
Yeah. My name is Alexander Hamilton. That never happened.
Exactly.
That never happened.
So we can add a jazz square to Mountain Tom Clark and it'll be fine. It's the Clifton
not
Shebang.
throwing away my shot.
Yeah,
that never happened.
No.
He didn't sing that before Aaron Burr shot him.
He could have. You don't know.
I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Anyway, so the residents of Lauderdale County also called them the Buggers. So I don't... Okay.
Because they bugged people? Because
they're just bad folk. But anyway, so... Initially, Tom Clark was just like a dude pre-Civil War, just like a poor guy, had a wife, had a kid, did like some farming, basically, but that's about it. Not much in the... Excuse me.
That's about all that anyone did back then, right?
Yeah, in this area.
A little bit of farming and moved on?
Unless you were rich and like... had like a business or owned a plantation of some sort, most everybody else was just a poor subsistence farmer.
Yeah.
Or worked for, one of the rich people doing something else. But yeah, he was just, a subsistence farmer hanging out, doing shit. And then, of course, the Civil War happens. And that area of the county was... Well, that area of Alabama and then a little bit further north in certain areas of Tennessee had a lot of Union sympathizers and stuff like that. And he was one of those for the most part, but I think he was more like, I just don't want to get involved in any of this period because it sounds like a lot of people are going to die, which, fair play, yes, happened. So there was... a Confederate conscription troop that comes through, and they find him outside of his house, and they were like, hey, you are now in the Confederate Army, regardless of whether you want to be or not, or you're gonna die.
There was a lot of that, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a whole fucking lot of it. Like, it was domestic terrorism down here. It was
forced
very
conscription.
Bad. Yeah.
Right? Did I say that word right?
Yes, you did. And so the Confederate officers conscripted him, and they went north, and they settled in Clifton, Tennessee. It's Wayne County, Tennessee, and they ended up. He eventually got away from them. And he deserted the Confederate Army, basically. He had been conscripted. He was only in there for about, a couple weeks. And then he manages to get away from this group. And he heads north to a section of Tennessee, in Wayne County, Tennessee, that was more Union heavy, more positive Union sympathizers. That's hard to say. And there was actually a posting of the Union Army in that area. And so he goes up there and he's like, I'm signing up with y'all. Those fuckers are the worst.
Nice.
So he signs up, and then he gets in the Union Army and he realizes that fucking sucks too. So he deserts the Union Army. So he's deserted both sides of the Civil War at this point.
Yeah, no matter what side you're on, you're still in the middle of a war.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It sucks.
So he ends up joining and being a big leader in this game called the Clifton Shebang. And the Clifton Shebang...
So, what it was, he left both armies and he wanted to start his own army. That's what it was. You know what? Fuck y'all. Y'all ain't doing any of this shit right. I'm going to start my own. We're 13 people strong.
Clifton shebang.
We're so strong that we make a shebang when we enter. We have a boom box with us.
So during this time period, they go on and about like pillaging and robbing and shooting and just being a general nuisance. They reportedly, I think the first like recorded report in like national papers of these folk is from 1865, and they completely started robbing the 4th Iowa Cavalry, a Captain Lot Abraham, and they, would hold up just troop supply wagons and that kind of stuff and steal all of their shit and shoot people if they had to. They were also...
Sometimes you gotta shoot people.
They were also like robbing farms and plantations and that kind of stuff. So they would go into these like area farmhouses, steal all of the shit, and if the people got in the way, kill them. So there was an issue where they actually got onto the Wilson plantation. This is after the Civil War has ended. We're in like Reconstruction era, like around 1871-ish, and they robbed a plantation called the Wilson Plantation outside of the Florence area, and they killed 3 different people, and they killed another, like they slaughtered some livestock and stuff like that.
Why?
And just to be a dick, I guess. But they killed 3 people, they killed some animals, and they stole all of the shit that they possibly could, and they got in a wagon and stuff like that. And they end up running past some people that recognize them, and they get reported to the local constabulary, whatever that happened to have been. I'm not sure what their policing system looked like at the time, but whoever was in charge and could arrest these folk start heading out towards them. So they end up, before they get caught, they conduct a second raid into the town of Florence itself in September of 1972. Okay, so it was 1972, not 71.
Okay, 1970?
18, I'm sorry.
Okay.
1872.
I was like, what the fuck am I missing here?
No, 1872.
Okay.
But anyway, they end up stealing, they go into a bunch of houses, they rob a lot of fancy shit from the actual town of Florence, and then they get all of their stuff into a covered buggy, and they're driving a sorrel mare, and they're heading out at sunrise, like just, leaving town with all of their loot. And they've stolen a bunch of clothes and stuff like that from these households, and so they're dressed very nicely. They've got all the fancy shit on, and they're just ready to, they're trying to blend in as like upper class gentlemen kind of folk. Turns out that people still knew who the fuck they were, and the sheriff in the area rounded up a group of people, deputized them, and they start heading out towards the direction that they went, trying to catch up to him. So they catch up to them in an area called Gravelly Springs, and they found that they had stopped at sort of a roadhouse area for dinner, and they were hitching up their horses, and they were, getting stuff ready to go inside and have dinner, and the marshal comes up and he's like, we've been looking for you, you've stolen a bunch of shit and killed 3 people. Pretty sure it's you. Yeah. And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about, it's not us, I don't what. So they were all really well dressed, and they were hard to like, but eventually they got him detained, and they found a bunch of the stolen stuff. They also ended up finding a bunch of files and saws and, quote, other burglarious instruments.
Burglarious?
Burglarious.
The fuck is burglarious? Used for burglary?
I guess. But they found burglarious instruments, so that was enough to be able to arrest them, So they arrested them, and they're a pretty known outlaw group in the area. So, like I said, everybody was pretty sure that's who they were, that's what happened, that's who did it, So they got taken back to the Florence jail, and the sheriff was like, okay, they've killed 3 prominent people from that plantation. They've stolen shit from basically everybody in town. This isn't going to be good. Our jail isn't secure enough to hold these fuckers. So he deputized 8 men to stand guard with the jailer through the night. And about midnight, just like the sheriff was afraid of, a big old crowd comes up to the jail and is like, give us them fucking keys. And the jailer was like, yeah, we can't do that. This is a jail. You need to stay out of it. Please stop trying to lynch our criminals. And obviously, the crowd was not cool with that. And so the jailer starts firing over the heads of the crowd, trying to get them to go away. And the crowd was like, go fuck yourself, and returned fire. And eventually, the jailer kind of like gets pushed out of the way, and they break into the jail.
Oh, okay.
Damn, why can't I think of the word jail?
I don't know.
Anyway, they break into the jail. They get Clark and 2 of the other, people that had been involved in the killings at that plantation.
Okay.
They take them all across the street to a vacant lot, and they hang them all there in a lot by a tree in the lot.
You doing okay?
No. Anyway.
It's just that day.
So, yeah. So they have lynched these criminals. No trial, no nothing. Just hung them up and left. And the next morning, they found the bodies. The citizens of the town were like, oh, shit, yeah, that's Clark right there. So they end up, having to bury these bodies because obviously they're dead bodies at this point.
I'd hope so.
So shot in the dark.
Oh God, it's Tom. Fucking. All right.
So there's a reason I'm telling you about this particular outlaw.
I'm so excited.
Because there's something weird about his grave.
What is it?
Yeah, that's what I want you to tell me. So, shot in the dark. There's something odd about the current location of Tom Clark's grave.
Okay.
Where is he buried?
Yay.
Is he A, buried in the river, B, buried under a street, or C, buried under a football field?
Ooh, okay. I already know it's not river. I'm taking that out. Because, yeah, there have been instances of, like, we got to redirect this river and now it's going over to something else. But that's not it. It could be street. It could be football field. So, I am going with street.
You're correct.
Yeah, of course I am. Of course.
I thought I would get you at the football field one.
Well, yeah. Mama didn't raise no fool. There you go. You said that to me earlier. I just realized you said that.
I actually said Dobby didn't raise no fool, but
yeah,
whatever.
Because Dobby raised you. He's a sweet little pupper, but he is not very responsible as a parent. Especially being responsible for a 30-year-old woman. I don't think you should entrust him with that. You okay over there? How'd that shot go?
Do not mix Whiskeynaut with mango White Claw.
Why not?
Ew. Oh, it makes the bitter just so much worse.
Oh, I want to tell a fun story real quick. So the reason we drank seltzer this week was because I played golf last week with some friends, and the cart lady came around. On the golf course, they'll sell beer and liquor or whatever. And I asked her what she had. She said, I have liquor minis, I have all this beer, and she started listing off all the beer, and she said, and I have some Truly, and she kept going, and I went, wait. What flavor Truly do you have? And she went back, and I tried 5 different flavors of Trulies that day, and I was like, these are fucking good. And now Leah's got the White Claw fever, and we've been trying them, and I like them a lot. I do think Truly's better, though, personally.
I haven't tried the Truly yet.
Yeah, we just got a case of Trulies at Costco to take with us to the lake this next weekend. Yep. And we'll report back with you very quickly to let you know if Truly's any good.
Yep.
But, if Leah thinks it's any good, because I fucking love Truly. The grapefruit is the best flavor, Leah.
All right.
Or the wild berry, I think.
Well, we'll see.
But we can go mix those if you'd like. Would you like me to go get you a Truly for your next shot?
I'm good. I'm good. Oh,
okay.
So gross. Anyway. So yeah, he's buried under a road. So, according to the legend, now, once again, I can't verify any of this, but there is a historical marker in town that gives the whole tale of this. So, maybe, maybe not, who knows? But this is the legend, the folklore, the story.
Okay.
So, they apparently... He had been known to say in his lifetime that, quote, nobody has ever run over Tom Clark. And he was just this big, bad, like, fuck you kind of guy, stealing and pillaging and whatnot. And that was his big thing. Ain't nobody ever run over Tom Clark. Mm-hmm. Well, when they buried him, they were like, yep. Fuck you. Well, we're going to bury you underneath the street so everybody can run over you.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so they, according to the story, buried him just outside the city cemetery underneath East Tennessee Street so that everybody and their brother could run over Tom Clark as often as they wanted to. And everybody was glad that he was dead because he was the leader of this gang that completely fucked up all sorts of shit throughout town. So, like I said, there's not a lot of evidence that is, in fact, the truth. But that's the legend. And like I said, there is a historical marker in Florence that, tells the legend and tells, the history of his career with the Clifton shebang. And so I think it's an interesting grave site marker kind of thing. It's a little bit of weird history. And so if you ever want to run over Tom Clark, head to Florence.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that. Mostly because of the shebang, Oh, that's just awesome. Absolutely awesome. Well, that was wonderful, Leah. Is that it for the first story?
It is. That's everything.
Yeah. Well, if we ever start a gang, what would we name it? Go ahead.
The Lawrence Hootenanny.
I don't know about Hootenanny. Not a big fan of Hootenannies. Let's just go with shebang. Let's just steal it. Fuck them.
We're better than stealing, Mitchell.
Well, nobody else has to know. Y'all, don't listen to this episode. Go back to March 29th. Listen to that one.
Oh, and speaking of being better than stealing, I should probably cite my sources.
Oh, yeah. Do that.
AlabamaHeritage.com has a great write-up about this particular character and a lot of the outlaws that inhabited North Alabama in that time period. And then AL.com also has a really cool list of the notorious people from each county in Alabama. Mm-hmm. And this one was Lauderdale County. So, yeah. Really neat. Appreciate it. Thank y'all very much for your
really enjoyed that story.
Materials.
I just, great gang name, number one. Number two, a nice big fuck you after you die. Like, I love those, and you know that I love something like that.
I know you do.
I know that you know that I love when people are like, ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do. And then they're like, you just lay under the road. Just shut up, lay down. Don't worry about it.
Fuck yourself.
Yeah. Asshole. I love that shit. And I'm so happy that it happened. Even though he had a great shebang.
Did he have the whole shebang or just half a shebang?
Well, I can't speak to that, Leah. That's none of my business. About the size of the man's shebang. Absolutely none of my business. How do you spell shebang? I'm going to...
SHEBANG, shebang.
Is that one word?
Yep.
Well, there you go. All right, y'all. Well, what about story number 2?
All right, so we're going to go to Tennessee, and we're going to be talking about the Rotherwood Mansion in Kingsport, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And this is a very sad, depressing ghost story.
Oh, my favorites.
Yep. And just as a heads up, we're talking about a plantation in Tennessee pre-Civil War.
Oh,
there's a lot of talk of slavery, and there's a lot of talk about abuse of African slaves. It sucks, and I'm just going to say, trigger warning, if that really, triggers someone on a level that they don't want to continue listening, heads up, might want to switch off at this point. So
I don't like it.
Anyway, let's continue, and we'll talk about the Rotherwood Mansion.
You might want to switch off, but you won't hear how funny I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
I'm very adept at making slavery hilarious.
That's not a cool take.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
No.
And I'm not going to try.
Thanks.
I never try, Leah. I'm just naturally hilarious.
No.
Yeah. I don't... Why don't I just be quiet for the next, 30 minutes?
Yeah, let's
Okay, I'll do it. Good.
Okay.
Go.
All right, so we're going to be talking about the Rotherwood Mansion. And it was built it was started in the 1810s, and it was built by a young man named Frederick Ross. So he had inherited a whole shit ton of land in Tennessee from a family member. It was from Kingsport to the Virginia border, so it's a fuck ton of land that he had inherited. And he and his family...
I spoke. I didn't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can talk. It's fine.
No,
just don't be racist. Thank you.
I don't ever plan to be racist, Leah. I'm not... Anyway.
All right.
Just remind me not to do any accents.
Okay. Yeah, accents can be a problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ross and his family were very, very wealthy. And they went out to start a plantation, and he actually, laid out the town of Kingsport. It was known as Rossville at the time, / Kingsport. It's two separate communities. But anyway, it's what is called Kingsport, Tennessee today. And of course, he was a very wealthy person. He's starting a plantation. It's pre-Civil War. He owned slaves, and he also owned... I couldn't find a number of slaves he owned, but any of them is bad, so let's just leave it at he owned slaves.
Just say one or more.
Yeah, and he also had a lot of white indentured servants as well, which is, not great, but at least they were allowed to work it off. I don't know. That whole system's just... ugh. Anyway. But anyway, he was a slave owner. He was just wealthy white guy at the time. But I'm not trying to make an apology for the fact that he was a slave owner, because that's completely just not okay in any form at all, period.
You're trying real hard here.
Yeah, I'm just
everybody understands that there were people that owned slaves back then.
But my point
okay.
is he was not an overly cruel person. He would actively keep the people that he employed from beating people. He made sure that they were medically cared for. He wouldn't separate families. He was the best you could get if you were going for slave owner. You know what I mean? I
also feel like that's subjective.
Still super shitty, but, at least he attempted to at least give a slight amount of damn. Anyway, so...
One slight amount of damn, please.
Yeah, so like I said, he attempted to take care of them better than a lot of people in the area did. Let's just leave it at that. So in 1818, 1819-ish, the work on the plantation house was finished, and he decided to call it Rotherwood. So, shot in the dark.
God, that was quick this time.
What work of literature is the name Rotherwood taken from?
Okay.
Is it A, Ivanhoe, B, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, or C, Wuthering Heights?
The fuck is Tess of the D'Urbervilles? The hell is that?
D'Urbervilles. It's actually a really good book. They've made a few miniseries and movies from it over the years.
I've never heard of that, but I've read Wuthering Heights, and I'm almost positive I read Ivanhoe. I don't know though, so I'm just gonna say Ivanhoe.
You're right.
Yeah, of course I'm right. Because I don't remember it from Wuthering Heights.
The other two were not... See, so Ivanhoe at the time was being published, serially at the time. So he must have, been really into it to have named it that.
This guy,
Because it was,
yeah,
occurring at the time being published.
This guy would have fit in at Comic-Con. The goal at Comic-Con is to dress up as the most obscure reference to anything within a fandom, This guy would have been there. He would have been... Hey, you know what? Named my farm after a thing in Ivanhoe. I don't even remember the name of it. Named my farm after that fucking thing in Ivanhoe. He was at IvanCon, and people were like, "This guy's the fucking coolest."
I've never dressed up as anything obscure at Comic-Con.
Well, I mean, okay, you do the Miss Piggy in space. That's
Pigs
not
in
Necessarily
space.
obscure. What?
Not even close.
That's not
Anybody
necessarily-
that's like a Muppet fan knows who the fuck Pigs in Space like that.
Right.
You've been to a con when I was dressed up as Miss Piggy. You know how many people stopped me and said "Pigs in Space" around me.
Yes, absolutely. But again, you weren't that obscure. Like it's not necessarily a down the middle thing, but it's also not that obscure to be Miss Piggy in space. The ones who get the most attention are the ones that are like, or not necessarily the most attention, but like definitely think they're the coolest when they're like super obscure. You know what I'm talking about? This guy is I'm saying this guy is that guy.
But like I said, like all of my costumes are like I've done the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like that's pretty mainstream.
You did pin up Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was adorable, by the way. I was trying for sexy and it just went straight up fucking adorable. It was the worst.
Yeah.
I've done Ursula before. I've done a few different things. So
And see, pretty mainstream.
yeah,
So I'm just saying, you're not the coolest person at the con.
that's true. But
That's what I'm saying.
a lot of people took pictures. I'm just saying.
Well,
Anyway,
you understand.
so he did name his house Rotherwood, and it's very, very fancy. It's still standing today, so it is privately owned, so don't mess with those people, please. For the love of God, don't mess with those people. But
Why not?
because they, I'm sure, do not want people fucking with their house. But
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but like, you can't just go up to him and be like, "Hey, y'all big Ivanhoe fans?" Or you can't say that to him.
So anyway, they have, big columned porches, just a beautiful garden, kind of like a flower thing and like a pondy situation on the roof. Like it was very like lavish and luxe and just a gorgeous home at the time.
Okay.
And he had a bunch of kids, but he had this one daughter named Rowena that was absolutely just a drop-dead gorgeous woman. Like, just the best one,
Prime.
And she was...
Right.
Yeah, she was beautiful. She had raven dark hair. She was very pale and like sort of an English rose complexion. And she was just considered to be like the most beautiful debutante in the area. She was very highly educated because her father paid to have her educated. And she had just beautiful manners. And she was just like the thing that everybody was after,
Oh.
And she had... just so many guys after her wanting to marry her. Like she was just the hot commodity at the time. But she met and fell in love with this one guy and she was like, "Oh, you're the guy. Let's do this." And so Mr. Ross was like, "Yeah, made a great choice. Good job, Rowena. We're going to get you married," because he loved this daughter and he was just so happy that she was happy and they were going to get them married. But before they got married, he decided that he would build them a house to live in when they're newlyweds, which sounds like a great thing that parents should be doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Why don't any other parents do that now?
Right? So he built basically a carbon copy of the Rotherwood mansion across the river from his house, just in a different color scheme instead of the
So
red
they're exactly
brick.
the same, though?
Yep.
Oh,
So
that's
instead of
fucked
the
up.
red brick that he had in his house, he built one with like white brick over there for them. And it was absolutely stunning, looked exactly like the first one. They would live across the river from each other. Beautiful fucking mansion that they didn't have to pay for. Newlyweds' dreams, right? But it turns out that shortly after it was finished, it burned to the ground before they
Whoa.
had a chance to actually get married and live in it.
Sounds like some arson.
Yeah, so that kind of sucked, and they should have known going forward that maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe this is an omen of what is to come, because they are like, okay, fuck it. We don't have to have a big fancy house. We'll just like live on love or something. And
No, that
on
doesn't
their
work. No.
Right?
No, you need a house.
Yeah, you really need a house.
I mean,
Anyway, on her wedding day, Rowena and her family and their groom and his family all got together, and they were just hanging out before the ceremony. Time was coming, they were just chilling. And the groom and his, friends were like, hey, we're going to go fishing for a while on the river before, we get married, just hanging out. Mm-hmm. And she's like, y'all have fun. And so they take out this little boat onto the Holston River, and the men were just there in plain sight, having a great time, fishing, having fun. And it turns out that the boat capsized.
Oh no.
And so the Holston River apparently has a lot of really dangerous undertow kind of currents.
Really? On the river?
That's what it says. It has issues with dangerous currents and eddies. Oh. And so the boat capsized, and they got under the water, pulled in, and it's a very fast flowing river in that area, and it had surging currents, and it all pulled them under. But thankfully 3 of the 4 men got back to the shore and they were okay. But obviously the one guy that didn't fucking make it was the groom, because of course.
Yeah.
So he didn't surface.
That's sad.
Never recovered his body. And she obviously fell into a deep depression because her groom died on their wedding day just because he was fucking around with fishing, right?
Is that what caused it?
Well, I mean it was the river, but
yeah,
if he hadn't been out there fucking fishing, it would have been fine.
It's not his fault that he's at the bachelor party fishing.
You don't have a bachelor party on your wedding day, dude.
And some people do.
Oh,
I'm just saying. When it's something like that, though, I mean, it's not a bachelor party, quote unquote, but it's not a big deal.
Well, it was a big deal because it killed him.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been a big deal.
So she becomes a fucking hermit for a couple of years. She doesn't want to talk to anybody. She's really upset. She just keeps herself locked away in her bedroom on the 3rd floor of Rotherwood. And she's just looking at her window, just being sad for a while. So she spends 2 years in mourning, but eventually she's like, okay, I gotta do something because this is not it, sis. So she goes out and she starts attending some social events again, and she's like, okay, we can try to get through this, right?
I guess.
She's still beautiful, she's still rich, so obviously people are still very into her. So eventually she catches the eye of this young man. He's very rich, and he was from Knoxville. And, I mean, it's not her, true first love, you know what I mean? But he was hot, so she would give it a shot.
Hey.
So they started, dancing and hanging out at different social events. And eventually, he asked her to marry him, and she said, sure. Just don't go fucking fishing on her
Don't go fucking fishing.
I wouldn't if I tried.
Baby,
Anyway.
The undertow's real strong, but you're still gonna be my bride.
So anyway, they finally make it through the wedding.
Come on, I did something amazing there.
Very cute.
Come on.
They made it through the wedding this time, and they're married, and they're having a great time for a good few months. They make it 6 months or so.
Oh, no.
And then a bout of yellow fever hits the area.
Oh.
And who gets yellow fever? Her husband. And who dies? Her husband.
Oh.
And who also goes into a deep depression again?
Her husband.
Rowena. He's dead.
Oh.
He can't go into a depression because he's dead.
Right, that would make sense.
Yeah. So Rowena once
Just
again
thought you were establishing
has
a theme. I'm sorry.
No. Rowena has once again been stripped of her love, her partner, and so she's devastated again. And so it takes her years to get over this shit. Almost a decade to get over this shit. And she's like, look, 2 dudes, super dead. What the fuck am I supposed to do? And she's so upset. But eventually, once again, she starts going out into society. She starts talking to people and just, trying to come out of it, And eventually she finds another guy, and she likes him, and they get married. And everything's going really good for her.
Does he know what's about to happen?
Right?
I mean,
No, he makes it. It's fun.
Oh, well,
So-
good for him, I guess.
Rowena is like really happy this time. She married. He lasted more than 6 months. It's pretty great.
Well,
And they even ended up having a daughter together. And they were just super blissful for about 6 years.
oh,
And then
God.
they decide to take a vacation back to Rotherwood
There you go.
to visit her father. And so they're hanging out, having a great time at this plantation. And Rowena at Rotherwood sees the ghost of her first fiance.
No, she didn't.
She does.
No, she didn't.
And she sees his hand, his
Oh.
ghostly white pale hand, reach out from the waters of the river where he drowned,
Oh.
just sort of beckoning to her, like, come to me, ma'am.
Oh.
You know? And she kept hearing his voice saying, Rowena, come join me. And so she's fucked up by all of this, clearly.
A little bit.
So instead of just like staying the fuck inside, she decided that it would be a great idea to get into her first wedding gown.
What the
That
hell's
was
wrong
still
with
there,
you?
right?
No, what are you doing?
She puts on her first wedding gown.
Uh-uh.
And she goes outside at midnight. And she follows the trail to the river. And she wades into the water and drowns herself. Exactly where her first fiancé died. Leaving behind a husband and 6-year-old daughter. Because of course. So, at this point, like, obviously this household has had a lot of tragedy. And it only gets worse from here. Because curses, right? So, Rotherwood gets a little worse at this point. So, her dad, Frederick Ross, is super, super upset that his daughter just drowned herself in the river. And he had been making some different business decisions leading up to the Civil War, and nothing seemed to be going great for him, just in general. So this is all pre-Civil War, and like I said, he's really unsure. It's not going well for him, so he decides that the only thing that he can do to keep himself and his family afloat is to go ahead and sell the entire plantation.
I would hope so.
Before he sells the plantation, he's looking for buyers, obviously. And the most wealthy guy in the area, the one that can afford to take it over, is a man named Joshua Phipps. Now, he's a known dickhead. Everybody knows he's an asshole.
Okay.
He is a violent fuckface, and nobody likes him. And so he's like, I'm gonna sell my entire plantation to this guy, but like if I do, he's gonna literally abuse all of the people that are a part of this plantation. So instead of selling the slaves with them, he goes ahead and frees all of his slaves beforehand. And so he sells, or he
What a
doesn't
great
sell
guy,
it.
right?
Well, I mean, he should have done that in the first place and not own slaves, but whatever.
Yeah, but like, what a great guy,
So,
right?
Anyway, I'm coming up to an interesting fact.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so he frees a lot of his slaves, and before transferring ownership to this Phipps man, and the freed slaves from this man ended up using the last name of Ross because, you know, they respected him for freeing them, I guess. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I wouldn't have kept it, but okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I understand.
the freed slaves from that mansion ended up settling in Hawkins County in an area called Zion Hill. And it was actually some of the ancestors of those people that were freed from that slave plantation. Diana Ross is descended from some of those slaves. Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that's how the surname Ross ended up there. I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of sucks overall, but, you know,
Yeah, it
interesting.
really sucks that they were enslaved people in the first place. But, you
Yeah.
know, like, I'm glad they got free and, anyway, didn't have to suffer under this fuckface that we're about to talk about. Because,
Suffer the fuckface. Suffer it.
Yeah. So, he sold this plantation to a man named Joshua Phipps. And like I said before, he is a literal fuckface.
Oh,
He is
God.
the absolute worst person that you could ever imagine.
What do you think a literal fuckface looks like?
like Joshua
Phipps. Hey.
So he left his house, and anyway, so Phipps moves in, and basically the Ross man ended up dying a couple years later, super broke, super sad, just not doing great, right?
Yeah.
But Phipps decided that it would be a really great idea to get a bunch of slaves up in this plantation again. So he brings his own slaves.
Good God.
Buys a bunch more. And he was a dude that was known for just being a cruel, cruel person.
Yeah.
He loved nothing more than to hear slaves getting whipped and beaten and just torn apart. You know what I
don't
mean?
like that at all.
He was an absolute sadist kind of situation. In the basement of the Rotherwood mansion, he added some, they call them slave cells, but basically it was like a dirt basement with dirt walls and stuff like that. And the field slaves, like the slaves that were forced to work in the fields and not in the house, they were basically just sort of put in those rooms at night, locked in an area, no sanitation, no nothing, just no openings, no windows, just sort of locked in there so they wouldn't escape. On the third floor, there was like a whipping post built into one of the walls because he enjoyed just hearing people getting beaten.
Just going up there and listening. Or we're listening from another floor, most likely.
Yeah, and so there are lots of accounts of people that post-Civil War, after things had been gone for a while, people that were working in it after it had become just a regular house of rich folk. Anyway, they were talking about how you could still smell like the blood and stuff like that in that basement room. How that when it got damp or moist down there, or the humidity was high, sort of the boards of the walls and stuff like that would just open up and you couldn't get the blood out of it.
Like that metallic smell that we
exactly
talking about?
that tang, that smell, just this whole thing was just disgusting. Because so much shit happened in that area and down there. And like I said, everybody knew him to be the absolute worst slave master. You know what I mean? He was just absolutely an evil character. And he was just a really bad fucker. That's about all you can say. And
really going out on a limb there.
Yeah, I mean, right? Just, oh, what a dude, right?
Yeah.
So Mr. Phipps actually also had a daughter, and her name was Priscilla, and she fell in love with like a farmhand, just a young poor dude in the neighborhood, and the Civil War was going on at this point, and she, like her suitor, her boyfriend, ended up getting conscripted into the Confederacy.
Oh, Jesus.
And Mr. Phipps had some pull with the people and ended up getting him put on the front line in order to get him killed immediately.
Oh, my God.
And he did, in fact, get killed immediately. And he told his daughter, yeah, I got him put in the front line because he's not good enough for you. And obviously she was really fucking upset about that.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And she ended up dying of depression and grief at the age of 20. So I don't know exactly if you can die from depression, because I haven't yet. But, well, I'm just saying.
Have you had any grief, though?
Quite a bit. But anyway, so she died from his fuckfacery. And anyway, there was also like a battle on the grounds of Rotherwood during the war as well. But so the more supernatural part of this story happens around here. So, once again, this is a legend. This is generally bullshit. The fact that he did, in fact, own this household, he was, in fact, a super duper douchebag. But if what I'm going to say next is true, who knows? But,
what?
We'll continue with this.
Okay.
I'm saying everything I've said up to now is is generally verified as historically accurate.
Yeah.
What I'm about to say next is very fantastical, and I very highly doubt that it happened this way, but it's a great story, so we're going to continue.
We'll see.
All right, so in the summer of 1861, Mr. Phipps got real sick, and the doctors didn't know what was going on with him. He was feverish, he had lots of hallucinations, he was like very confused, didn't know what was going on. And eventually they were scared of him being contagious, so they separated him from the main house and they put him in the carriage house, and they had a young boy assigned to watch over him and fan him and just try to like, yeah,
this is upsetting.
And so they had him like fanning him off and trying to make sure he didn't die for a few days, right?
Okay.
So Phipps was in and out of a fever, dreaming, sleep, kind of crazy at the end. And at the end, basically what happened was, and once again, this is the story, but the boy was fanning him, and all of a sudden Phipps wakes up, and he hasn't been like lucid in days, but he finally wakes up, he snaps out of it, and his eyes start like just rolling in their sockets. And then he fixates on like a point way above his head, and the boy looks up to see what the fuck he's looking at, and it turns out that, the guy, the Mr. Phipps, starts screaming, just bloody murder, and the boy looks to see what he's seeing, and it's this huge, like, just massive cloud of flies. And so the flies descend on this guy and choke him to death, basically.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love to see that happen.
Just, like, absolutely choke him to death. Like, just he's, like, trying to get away from this massive buzzing cloud of flies. Can't do it. It's terrifying, etc. Kills him, and the boy's freaked the fuck out, obviously, so he runs the fuck to get help and say, hey, this guy's got a fly death going on. And so the doctors come out to the carriage house to see what's going on, and they've just found his body dead, staring up in the sky.
Were there any flies?
Nope, not a fly in sight. Didn't
okay,
see
so the boy
anything.
choked him to death.
I mean,
that's what happened.
Not gonna say I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
saying.
I understand. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm saying he did it.
But I mean, that's the story, the legend, the folklore. And so not very many people were terribly upset at the fact that he was dead, because he was just known to be an asshole in society altogether.
As you said.
A jerk.
Yeah.
So on his funeral, and like I said, this is the legend. Local folklorists and historians in the area have had this story passed down from great-grandparents, you know what I mean? But this is the story of his funeral, and once again, it is fantastical as fuck, but I like it, and I'm going to tell it. So at this funeral, everybody's in attendance, but nobody is really upset about it. Like, they're all like, hey, having a good time, to-do, funeral.
That's how I am at most funerals. Having a good time, funeral.
So
do that a lot.
Funeral, like, the casket is pulled by like a horse-drawn, like there's a horse-drawn hearse with two horses just heading up towards the cemetery plot to get him buried or whatever. And during the funeral, like the graveside service, a storm starts picking up. And it starts blowing everything back and forth, and just like wind and rough weather, you know.
Okay.
And as the horse starts heading up the hill, the horses are having a hard time getting the casket up the hill. The ground is starting to get soft and weird. And anyway, the horses manage to like get it going, and all of a sudden, out of the sky, this lightning bolt just sort of catches, and it like splits a tree right near where the gravesite is, and like it starts smoking, and there's fire and shit like that. So everybody's like, ooh, this isn't great. No likey, but whatever. So they finally get the coffin up to the gravesite, and the pastor starts giving final remarks and a service or whatever. And so the storm's getting worse, and there's thunder, and it's real spooky. And eventually the casket starts moving, so it's like vibrating and sort of freaking everybody out. And everybody's like, what the actual fuck? And apparently, and once again, this is folklore.
It's colloquial.
I love it. But apparently, according to the story, they heard sounds like giant claws on the wood, and they're all freaking out. And apparently, this gigantic black dog sort of jumps out of the casket.
What? I don't believe this anymore.
And
I'm done.
it scares
I'm done
the
listening.
shit out of everybody involved. And the dog has these bright glowing red eyes, and it starts running towards the trees. And everybody is like fucking done with this shit at this point. And so they looked at the casket, and the casket didn't seem to be messed with. It was a spectral dog of some sort. And they're like, you know what? Fuck all of this nonsense. Put that fucker in the ground. Let's be done with it. And so they, buried him, came back down the hill, and they thought they were done with it. But all of a sudden, they start hearing this thunder, and it sounds like that Mr. Phipps man laughing. And apparently he had a real evil, maniacal Disney villain kind of laugh.
He had a thunderous laugh?
Yeah, and it freaked a lot of people out. So, basically, nowadays, people see a spectral dog in that area, and they believe that it is the hellhound ghost of this dude, based on his funerary issues. Okay. And they also see in this household, this area, the ghost of Rowena, as well as the ghost, and you can apparently hear the haunted wails and screams of slaves that were being abused at the hands of Mr. Phipps as well. So
I'm sure that's very pleasant, too.
Yeah, right? So the current owners apparently have said that they don't have any issues with any kind of paranormal stuff, and will you please leave us the fuck alone? Because clearly they're not thrilled about having a haunted residency. But previous to that, people had done a little bit of investigating and that kind of thing in that area.
Well, I hope with the owner's permission.
Well, I mean, the previous owner, the people that own it now, are completely not okay with anybody visiting it. They don't want anything to do with the paranormal. They just want to have a nice house, and please, thank you, fuck off. Which I don't blame them.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't blame them at all. It's an expensive fucking house, just, and which they did help restore. So, fuck off.
They've paid their dues already.
Yeah, exactly. Like, please leave them alone. But it also, like I said, people have been known to see the ghost of Rowena, so the white lady on the banks of the river there, as well as the first fiance that died there, and like I said, the spectral dog that is supposed to be a hellhound that is, I guess, Mr. Phipps, and then, like I said, the ghosts of the people that died there as slaves. And so it's a real spooky location. There's been a lot of death. A lot of people think that the house is cursed, kind of stuff. But a lot of people just think that it's a real dark, spooky, creepy kind of place that has a lot of bad juju involved with it. But like I said, the person that owns it now doesn't seem to be having any issues. And they just want to be left alone. Yeah, and they want to be left alone. So it's an interesting story. I think it's a good folkloric tale, you know what I mean? But if you're in that area of Tennessee and it's a dark, stormy night and you hear the laughing, thunderous sounds and you see the hellhound, you know who it is. Yeah. It's that guy whose house you shouldn't be at because he doesn't fucking own it, and neither do you. Exactly. I'm a little drunk. I'm sorry. Did any of that make sense? No, I didn't follow it at all. I don't even know what you said. Really? No, do we have to do this over? I was completely paying attention. I'm so concerned by you finishing the story and going, y'all get any of that? That's when we start to have problems, Leah. We're an hour in, and now you're going, y'all there? I just had so many notes, and I just skated over some of the portions that looked too hard to remember, so. What? Okay, so you... Oh, never mind.
Never mind. I accept.
That was most of the story, I guarantee.
Yeah. I mean, I think I got the gist. I think I'm there.
Good.
Yeah.
Lots of people die.
Yeah.
Dude's creepy, has a ghost dog funeral. Right. The end.
Right. Ghost dog funeral. My favorite kind. Well, how about you just give us a toast?
All right, everybody, hoist your goblets high into the sky. We're giving you an old-fashioned terrible toast.
Yay! I love when they're old-fashioned.
All right. In life, old Mountain Tom was a liar and a cheat, and death the ne'er-do-well is resting underneath the street.
Nice.
You know what they say with fiancés, the third time is the charm. Just beware of following your first lover's ghostly arm. Drink.
What was wrong with that toast? That was a good toast.
Oh, okay, good.
You did very well.
Thanks.
You didn't do anything, like you kept a nice rhythm in both stanzas. Everything was good.
It's called meter, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, y'all, God damn it, we need to be streaming these things. Number one, you can hear the terrible things I say that we cut out. Number two, you can see how confident Leah gets when she says, meter bitch, and slams the laptop closed. Y'all didn't even get to hear her slamming the laptop closed. Oh, she's so into that. Her self-esteem was at an all-time low, and I said, nothing's wrong with that. She goes, meter bitch, slams it closed. There you go. Leah's all better, and we have to stream from now on. Don't you agree, Leah?
No, because that would involve putting on real pants.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Yeah, I just realized I'm not wearing pants. I'm sitting here in my underwear.
I have shorts on, but,
Yeah.
It's not real pants.
Well, anyway, if y'all would like for us to be able to afford pants, go to patreon.com/Southern Spirits Podcast.
And we're big people, so pants are expensive.
Yeah, there's so much fabric involved in making our pants. The amount of pants that we need exceeds your need for pants. I can almost guarantee. Yeah, Leah is drunk. Fucking shit. This was supposed to be the start of the outro. I was going to start it with the Patreon and say, join Lizzie in giving us pants money. We've ceased to be a beer podcast. We're now doing cheese and pants. Those are our two things. Oh, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Look for Southern Spirits Podcast. Join the community chat on Facebook. Southern Spirits Community Chat is the name of that. Join us there for the best memes in the world when we agree? Remember is what I was trying to look for to post them. Send us an email, southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com. Send us postcards to P.O. Box 1743 in Hartselle, Alabama. That's spelled HARTSELLE 35640. And I believe that's everything, Leah. Did I miss something?
Nope.
Okay, well, y'all send us some cheese and pants money, and we will see you next time.
Bye, y'all.